Now welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with Thor's Lightning Takes. And let's get right to the news.
Alright, we're going to talk about the Acolyte because it is the hot ticket item.
Is it?
Sort of. For
It's
better
2
or
weeks
for
away.
worse.
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks. And we'll start to get a real picture about what this show is.
Hopefully. Maybe. It's supposed to be a mystery, right? So maybe we won't have any
We
picture.
will talk about that because
we will talk about it.
SFX magazine decided to cover the Acolyte as like one of their big June 2024 issue story things.
Sure.
So we got new quotes. They, of course, right away brought up the fact that one of the key Acolyte inspirational pieces was Rashomon by Kurosawa, the murder seen by 4 different observers and recounted in different ways, and that Leslie really wanted to emphasize that the perspective of the Darkseid character was important to the narrative structure of the series.
I talked a little bit about that in my video yesterday, as a matter of fact. You didn't see the video, so you can only guess as to what I talked about. But yeah, talked about a little bit of that and how, again, my fear with the show is trying to paint the Darksider in sort of this sympathetic light, which kind of is backed up a little bit by her statement here, right?
I believe so.
I do think we're going to get a very sympathetic view of the dark side, which is what I fear, because that's not how it should be presented, I feel.
What's interesting is I've gotten a couple more pieces of information about perspective of the show.
Okay.
We know it's following about a mysterious assassin who's bumping off Jedi one by one, and it's also going to be telling the story of the investigating of the Jedi Order, kind of like a parallel narrative, explaining the assassins' training, their motives for wanting to target Jedi, and we're also going to see the Jedi doing their investigating.
Okay.
Yes. So producer Rain Roberts says, sometimes we're in the Jedi point of view, and sometimes we get to be in the point of view of the mysterious assailant. You might have thought something happened one way, but it's like, oh, wait a minute. This is a fun idea that Leslie Headland wanted to flesh out when we were developing the episodes. It really speaks to the way her brain works. I tell people she has this puzzle brain, and if you look at her storytelling in Russian Doll, there's a puzzle that starts to unfold. Part of the way that the puzzle unfolds in the Acolyte is through those Rashomon points of view.
It sounds to me like we're never going to get like a definitive answer as to what exactly happens.
I don't know if they have a definitive answer as to what exactly happens. Because they talk in the article too about like the meaning of the Acolyte, literally the name of the show.
Yeah.
What that means and stuff. But they also kind of mention the fact that, it's going to take 2 seasons to tell this whole story. But once again, one of the producers, Roberts, he does emphasize the fact that Leslie Headland did her Star Wars homework, that she's a fan. He says, in terms of the mythology, she's probably the most well-versed filmmaker I've had the chance to collaborate with. Not only has she watched all the films and all the animation, she's read all the expanded universe novels, and also...
All of them?
He says all of them.
Okay.
And she also does deep dives into the online lore. She knew exactly what she was saying with these new characters and how to tie them into the larger mythology.
I will be impressed if she does that. I would be even more impressed if she has literally read every single...
There's a lot of books.
There's hundreds of books.
There's hundreds.
I mean, then you dig into comics and you're talking thousands. So I don't know about that.
We shall see, right?
There aren't many people out there that have read everything.
Everything.
Yes.
Everything.
I know what he's probably trying to say there too. He's
just
not speaking
emphasizing
literally.
that she is an
It's
expert,
yes,
that she
yes.
knows what she's doing, that her story, her characters fit into the whole lore of Star Wars overall, right?
Well, we shall see.
We shall see.
That is one of the big fears about her, right? Is that she will come in and just kind of do what she wants to do because she doesn't respect the lore. So everything we hear is the opposite.
It'll be interesting.
Well,
we'll know
it's
one
going to
way
be
or the other
interesting.
soon enough,
I'll be impressed. Hey, I would love to be wrong about this show. And I'm not saying that I have made a decision, but certainly I can admit that I'm leaning more towards the skeptical side of things right now. Just based off the Jedi encountering Sith at this point in time. It does not seem like it fits with all the lore that she is going to be respecting. Now, with her playing with the Rashomon idea, it could be that we are, as I pointed out in my video yesterday, we could be seeing things from a certain point of view who are exaggerating what they're seeing, right?
Absolutely.
If you have not encountered a dark side user before, you're a young Jedi and you encounter a dark sider, you may get this impression that they are doing all sorts of these crazy things that they're actually not.
That's also true, yeah.
Yeah, so there's me trying to defend the show perhaps a little. I could certainly be wrong. I could be on the right track, or who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
Roberts also kind of talks about the detective element is very high in this show. That he would say the story engine of the show is tracking down the assailant. It's not a procedural, but they're on the hunt, looking at clues, talking to people, and trying to figure out where things might go next. And then Simon Emanuel, who's also working on the show as executive producer, remember, he is also involved in Mangold's film. We just got that announcement recently.
Jedi Prime.
Starring
Megatron.
He says that the show doesn't really fit into a single genre, and that the nature of the story is indeed a puzzle. He says it's not a sleuthing show, even though the other one said it was about a detective-type show, but it's a show with mysteries and reveals. Hopefully that comes back to Henlon's puzzle box storytelling, and I think it's going to be really rewarding to the audience to see how things unfold. It's a different genre take on Star Wars, but it's still utterly Star Wars in its essence.
We shall see.
I know, there's a lot of we shall sees going on,
It's a lot of like trying to reiterate that this is Star Wars, which maybe they're doing that because it really is Star Wars, and they have heard that there are some doubts and skepticism out there, right? So they're like, no, this is Star Wars. Don't worry. Or it's because it's not Star Wars.
Well,
and they
because other projects have been hailed. I mean, think of even Andor. Andor, great show, but a lot of people were saying this doesn't feel like Star Wars. So they do have to manage to have a great, elevated, well-connected, working story and still make it feel like Star Wars to the fan base. Well, one thing they wanted to describe in the show is that they were very interested in action and combat, which you wouldn't really expect out of this time period because the Jedi were different.
Well, the Jedi weren't different per se. I know what you're trying to say. There wasn't a lot of
the peacekeeping soldiers we started seeing in
the Clone Wars.
Yes, in the Clone Wars. They said one of the things we talked about really early on was action. And I really believe that in these kinds of shows, action has to be a character. It can't just be a, give me a punch, give me a lightsaber fight. So I introduced Leslie to a guy called Chris Clark Cohen, who is our action designer and part of the team who worked in the Darth Vader sequence in Rogue One. For me, it's the best action the franchise has seen, and there's so much of it. So imagine the entire show is literally the Vader hallway scene, right?
No, that's not the part that got me. The best action in this, does he mean Star Wars? The series of Star Wars from 1977 onward?
The franchise.
He said franchise, not
series. He says franchise. Remember, they were also claiming Episode 1 level combat fights and stuff.
I'm going to say no. I don't need to see it to say no. I mean, hey, if you pull it off, I'll be impressed. But I really, we talked about this before. Stop comparing yourself to what Star Wars has done before in terms of fights, but especially with the Phantom Menace and Duel of the Fates, or even moving into Revenge of the Sith, Battle of the Heroes. Let's not compare ourselves to those. Just don't do that. It's a bad idea.
They make sure to emphasize the fact that you don't need to watch other Star Wars to watch The Acolyte. You don't need to know Star Wars to watch The Acolyte. But at the same time, they turn around and they're like, by the way, these are different types of Jedi. There's no looming threat out there. They're doing their duties. They're investigating weird things around the galaxy and being dispatched to resolve conflicts. There's nothing alarming the Jedi as a whole are looking for until they start getting attacked in the events of The Acolyte start unfolding.
What about the plant monsters?
They're past that.
The Nile?
They're not even worried about that anymore.
Okay.
Because remember, you don't need to know anything about Star Wars.
Well, it's weird that you say that. And I know why you say that, because you want anybody and everybody to watch the show, right?
But
then you're like talking about how she's dug into the lore. She's like this expert. It's like, well, which one is it? Is it a show where they really dig into the lore? Or is it a show where anybody can watch it because it doesn't dig into the lore? Those are kind of conflicting statements.
Oh, I agree with you. Very conflicting, honestly.
Yeah.
All right, one of the last things I want to hit on here is they did talk, like I said earlier, they debated and talked a little bit about the meaning of the title, The Acolyte. Obviously, there's a lot of debate on the meaning of the title. That's a mystery I think the show will reveal, but I wouldn't want to spoil it for you. It might not be what you'd expect. I'd say this is more like one story of the Jedi being fallible and vulnerable right now. The Jedi and the Republic have a really strong and productive relationship, and it's a time of peace. There are probably tons of examples of when the Republic started to break down, but this is just one that starts to point things in that direction. The Phantom Menace and the prequels were about the geopolitics and the Jedi's relationship with the Republic beginning to fracture. But our story is much more zoomed in on characters and their relationships. It has implications, but the galactic scope is really reserved for the prequels. We're not backing into anything that's pre-decided. There are new characters, all of their fates were up to Leslie and the writing room, so it's going to be really fun. I hope to see where they go. There's some things the show points to. We've got to get back in the writer's room for season 2 and see where we're at, and have some initial thoughts about what we want to do. But in terms of where the story will ultimately wrap up, that hasn't been quite nailed down yet.
Who needs a plan?
Why do you need a plan?
If I learned anything from the sequels, it's that plans are stupid.
I hope we leave season 1 as a cliffhanger, and then they wait for the audience to write it for them. They'll just watch your next fan fiction and be like, that's it.
Oh my god.
Thor wrote up a fanfic here. He did his own How the Acolyte Should End, and they'll just make that.
I'm sure it'll be my most watched video ever.
Ever.
Because
it'll be on Disney Plus, called The Acolyte Season 2.
Well played.
Yeah. All right, let's quickly touch on new this week and Star Wars, etc. Yesterday, Monday, Deadpool and Wolverine tickets went on sale, so if anyone's looking to get some tickets, it is time.
No, be Monday again.
It's because I'm constantly sick now with allergies. All the farmer fields near us have been digging around in the dirt and chopping things down and
like how
mowing
you describe
lawns.
it. Yes, as if they're out there with little picks and shovels.
No, but you've seen it.
No,
it
gets bad. It gets really... Like, I have no allergies,
and we are once again being affected by the Canadian wildfires.
Are we? What,
yeah,
can
we've got air quality alerts, and my allergies have not been great.
You've been rough. This is one of your better days, actually. We don't sound
I'm still a little scratchy.
Yeah, well, you sound better than you have, that's for sure. So, yeah, we hopefully next week... Blame it on Canada, like South Park said. Blame Canada.
Blame Canada.
No, it's bad around here this time of year. I'll give her that.
Wednesday, comics. Star Wars number 46, where they're still doing something. They make great covers. We've got the Master and Apprentice version of the cover up on the screen for you. It's nice.
Okay. They make great covers.
They do.
If only the stories inside were so good.
Oh, yeah. Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Time, we will have voice chat.
Yep,
it's going back to Thursday.
And it'll stay there as we slide into the Acolyte season.
Unless we need to move it again for personal reasons.
Well, sure, but I mean, just that is the normal date, date and time, unless
Thor's
otherwise.
Day, come on.
Thor's Day, yeah.
Thor's Day to talk to Thor.
Yeah.
And sometimes Naboo. Well, I'm
always there.
I'm always there. I just can't stay as long as you. And then Friday, Furiosa drives into the theaters.
Oh. And there she goes.
There I go.
But anyway, that is going to be all we have for you this time. Now it is your turn. Take to the comments below. Tell us what you think of any and all of today's news about the Acolyte. We are now 2 weeks away. Are you excited or more nervous than ever?
We shall see.
Whatever the case may be, leave those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars, and until next time, thanks for watching.